Sudhir, hi.
Hi, are
Uh,
we on?
yeah, we are on.
Uh,
I really apologize for the viewers. There's been some technical issue and the Zoom call has not worked. So we are live back again. There is a fresh link that is generated on the Living My Promise page. Please go onto the Living My Promise page to watch this live session once again. Sudhir, we have another question. Do you think people, do you think enough people are contributing for philanthropy? If yes, why still so many issues in various areas exist?
so from an Indian context, absolutely no. I don't think there are enough people that contribute to philanthropy, in my personal opinion, and in my networks at least, that I see. I think people wait for some artificial milestone in their lifetime where they feel that is the only point when they feel that they are able to contribute to philanthropy. I think for me, the journey has been, unless you're evolving over time in whichever shape and form you can. I'm not, saying that I could do what I can do today 5 years or even 2 years ago. It is continuing and evolving field for me personally as well. But it has to start at an early stage, and I'm this is why I'm wanting my kids, for example, to encourage them to give. And I was delighted that when my daughter, on her fifth birthday, she said, "Dada, don't give me a birthday party. Give the money for the poor children." And we donated actually the entire money that would have gone on to a birthday party for her to the home from where we adopted both our kids. So I think for me, hopefully that is something which is ingrained in them, and that they will, even do much more than I and Charmaine could ever do in our lifetimes as we go forward. The other piece for me as well is that a lot of people associate philanthropy only with money, only with financial contribution. And I think today the sector is at a point where it is starved of expertise as much as it is starved of resources. And perhaps because it is starved of expertise, it is starved of resources even more, because there is so much low hanging fruit. And I mean, it's coming to the cause that I am most closely involved with on disability mainstreaming. There is so much we can make a difference in, just with the experience that we have gained, the expertise that we have generated with our decades of experience in the corporate world. If we apply some of those learnings and principles to the social sector, I think there is tremendous opportunity for some quick gains. And here we're talking of impact to millions of lives. I mean, we're not talking of small amount of work, right? Starting small things and being able to convert that into a movement. I mean, let me give you the example of people like Afroz, Indranil, and Rabia. I mean, I think if you look at the work that has been done, one individual getting started with a passion for a cause and getting into that, and leading to the kind of movement that it has created. Unfortunately, there are very few of these type of examples that we have in a country of our size. We need 1,000 Afrozes, Indranils, and Rabias, even millions of them, to actually turn the clock for our country, to move the needle, to make a difference. So I certainly do not believe that philanthropy is a well-entrenched concept in our society. There is a little bit of charity that happens at times which are convenient to us, or when there is a celebration or a death in the family or stuff. That's the time that we consider that we should do something to give, just so that we can get blessed for that. That is even that at times charity is always a quid pro quo. It's like a negotiation with God that I'll contribute money, but bless me with this and that. I think it has to become part of who we are, and I hope that our society will evolve as well, to be a more giving society, especially for those of us who are blessed to have more than the average.
Yes. For viewers who are watching, please log into the Living My Promise page. If you're watching the old video, I have posted a comment for the new video link. Please come onto the Living My Promise page and you'll find the latest video now. And if you have, in the meantime, if you have any questions for Sudhir, please post them in the comment section. Sudhir, we have another question from Vidya Patil. She's asking, when did you realize that greatest source of suffering is not the inability itself, but the underlying feelings of being useless, unappreciated, and unloved?
So that's actually interesting, Vidya, that you asked that. It's a statement which actually was in the book written by The Moment of Lift by Melinda Gates, and it's actually attributed to a Catholic priest, Henry Nouwen, who wrote a book called Life of the Beloved. Apparently, Henry was someone who taught at Notre Dame, Harvard, and Yale, but then gave up his the last few years of his life to work in a mission where they took care of people with disability. But being with the likes of Devyanshu, Ekinath, a few other of my friends who are in this space of helping make a difference, I think it became very apparent. And I have some examples of when I have people with disabilities are very frequent visitors to my home. So in my society, constantly on weekends we go cycling. We have events at home where we have people come in en masse. So my neighbors and the like, they see this, and sometimes when we are walking, people will come and tell us, okay, it is so nice, you guys are doing all of these things. But then what happens, the conversation veers to, when we look at them, we feel so good about what you do, but we feel so thankful. It's like we feel we are blessed because we are not like them. And that to me is the fundamental root of the problem, because we believe somewhere deep down our unconscious bias makes us believe that we are more blessed than them because we have our vision, or because we can walk, or we can hear, or whatever that might be, which is not true. These people are capable of living very meaningful lives, making a big contribution just as much as anybody else can. But somewhere in our mind, we believe that because they don't have that particular ability that for us feels like we cannot live without, that we must pity them and we must feel good about ourselves that we have that and we are blessed to have that. So and that doesn't mean we never think of them as equals to us. And that is exactly what we need. We don't want the pity. We don't want the sympathy to say, oh, it's so nice and we contribute to this, that. Much more than that, I think we need that mindset change in society to consider that everyone, irrespective of the kind of physical challenge or intellectual challenge they may have, has an inherent ability which we choose not to recognize. We choose to focus on the disability and not on the ability of the individual in question. If we were to focus on the ability, we would find ways to nurture that and make them a contributing member of society. So the more I spend time with people like that, the more I realize. So one of my great learnings was I did the Manali to Khardungla cycling expedition last August. It's a 550 kilometer, going up from the net elevation that you go up is more than going from sea level to Mount Everest. I did that in a tandem bike with a disabled, with a blind partner behind me. And as we went through that expedition over 10 days, I realized that I was the handicap, not him. The only thing that he could not do is see, because of which he needed me to guide the bike so it doesn't go into the valley, right? That was my contribution. He was pulling majority of the weight from behind me and actually motivating me to keep going. We mentally, in our mind, we think, when you start that journey, you feel, oh, I have this blind guy, I will have to take him with me and carry him through, and I kind of inflate my ego to make myself feel that somehow I am going to be the one on whom all of the burden is to make sure that my partner goes through. And then somewhere through that journey, you realize that you are his excess baggage. He is taking you along with him. The only thing he needs from you is your vision, because he does not have that. But if at some point technology evolves where even that can be done through some kind of guided system, I mean, they don't need us. That's the realization that I have, is that what people need is just the ability to be of worth and to be considered and equal by others. They don't need our pity. They don't need our sympathy. But unfortunately, that's the mindset in which all of us have grown up. And again, not to blame. I was part of that very much. And it's only through experience, like having been with the likes of Devyanshu and so on, that I am learning my way through this. And it's a mind change. It's a life-changing learning experience where you realize how poorly you have behaved through all of these years of your life, because somewhere subconsciously we never experienced, we never had the opportunity to interact with a person with disability. We never grew up with someone who was in our school or someone who was our friend. We never knew anybody unless you had someone in your family that you didn't have a choice. So it's phenomenal when you learn that thing and you realize and you can focus on the ability. I think there is so much that we can do, and like I say, there is so much low-hanging fruit. There is so much difference you can make to millions of lives, and that is my passion. That is what drives me, is that in my lifetime I want to make a difference to as many people as I can.
Yes, Sudhir, that's fantastic. Sudhir, we have one question from Meera Shenoy. She's asking you, do you think it helps if philanthropists choose one issue and dig deep, create networks, put one's energies to make an impact on scale?
Hey, Mira, great question. I don't know that there is one right answer to that, but I know the answer for me, which is right, is I do want to go deep. And the statement that I think Sushant made at the beginning is my feeling of wanting to be an evangelist for the cause. I think it certainly helps in my mind, especially for causes like this, which are not well recognized, which are not well funded, which are still languishing behind other better known or better funded causes, whether it is education, girl child, healthcare, so on. I think it helps to go deep into it, to be able to kind of peel the onion down to the core of it and understand where the root cause of this problem is. And if I had not gotten myself deeply involved in an issue like this, I would have perhaps not come to the kinds of realizations that I have. So it's not a one size fits all, not a one answer for everybody. But I think for causes like this, my personal feeling is that I do want to be primarily, I wouldn't say that I would not be at all involved in anything else, but I think this should be my core competence. This should be my area where I think I can make the biggest difference if I focus myself onto this cause. So, each one for himself or herself, but that's the way I see it personally.
Yeah. Sudhir, I just want to understand what prevents more people from joining an initiative like Living by Promise. What prevents them from being more philanthropic in their giving?
Well, I guess if I can speak for myself, it is this again, this you're growing up in a mindset or in an environment where you've never been sure about uh, you know that you are all set for the future. It's always been about uh, wanting to make sure secure yourself, because you grew up in a time and in a family, at least if I speak for myself, where you weren't sure about where the future was for you, and you didn't want to go back to where you came from because you knew it was hard, and it keeps getting harder, right? So part of it, I think, evolves around that mindset where we always want to make ourselves extra secure in terms of going forward and doing things. And then I guess somewhere, to me also, it's where the way you see philanthropy in your own shape and mind, whether you feel uh, desire, whether you can experience the joy of being able to make a genuine difference to cause, to people, to individuals, and be able to see that and experience it for yourself. So when I did this fundraising through running the Tata Mumbai Marathon. Last 2 years I've done it now, and I've raised, between the 2 years, I've raised over 1 crore of rupees to fund, and we built homes for 25 widows of farmers who had committed suicide in the Amravati region. And I've not just raised funds and then said, that's it, right? For me, it was about making sure that those houses were built, making sure, actually going beyond that, to see if we could help those widows with livelihoods, because just building a house over the roof over their heads is one part of the problem. But if they do not have meaningful livelihoods, then it still remains a challenge. So uh, I'm still involved with that. And but for COVID, we would have gone there a month or two ago to help these widows to find some form of skilling or some form of self-employment that they can stand on their own feet. And I brought together my network of contacts, whether it was with Mandeshi Foundation, who does skilling for rural women, or through contacts that I developed through ABBF of people with disabilities who are into small self-employment groups and so on. So those experiences for me made it easier to take the plunge, so to speak. And many people, I think, are skirting the edges, wanting to do it, but uncomfortable that that then I will be kind of visible, and be held to this. And if should I have a problem later on, or how do I face up to society and peer pressure and so on. For me, it's always been, I have put myself up front and almost backed myself into a corner, that just that shame of failing in full public glare will make sure that I do my best to not go there. Whether it was running 50 marathons, which was my goal before I became 50, and everybody who knew me knew that that was my goal, and everybody who met me would ask me first, how many numbers have you reached? And if I was falling behind, it would have been very shameful for me to be able to explain to people that I failed in the goal that I trumpeted from the rooftops. So I am the type of person who pushes myself into a corner and then backs myself to succeed or fail in full public glory. And thankfully that hasn't happened as yet. And now again, each one for himself. So I do think many people are very close to that. And I hope that some of them can be tipped over the edge as we grow into a more mature and giving society. And maybe that is the silver lining of this COVID cloud. I think a lot of people have found ways to make a difference, and seeing these migrant laborers walking in front of us, reading about those stories, have made it very real for a lot of people. And I hope that that is the silver lining to this COVID cloud, is that as a society we become more giving and more compassionate.
Yeah. I have one question from Sumit Chatterjee. He's asking, every organization today talks about diversity, but most stop at gender diversity. What, in your views, stops organizations from broadening the canvas?
Hey, Sumit, thanks for that question. Yeah, I think it's absolutely right. And in the Indian context, perhaps even more so, but even globally, I see this. I mean, gender is the most recognized dimension of diversity, and there is certainly still a lot of work to be done, even in that very basic dimension of diversity. But I think it's considered in that sense the the most well recognized. A lot of it is done because it is tick in the box exercises that you can showcase to your stakeholder group that you are trying to influence, to your employees, to your investors, and so on. It's the easier one to target, and it has a lot of visibility. So you score a lot of TRPs by focusing on gender diversity. But the harder ones are disability or LGBTQ, right? In the Indian context, both of those are extremely hard to drive. It needs you to make fundamental changes, both in terms of physical infrastructure, in terms of mindset of your organization towards accepting, let's say, a transgender or a person with disability. And we've experienced that as we have gone through this. It's not easy. It needs commitment from the top to the the average person at the front line of the organization, that they need to feel that because inclusion to me is perhaps a greater challenge than diversity, which unfortunately is not recognized always. We tend to, diversity is easy to measure. You can do it in terms of numbers, metrics, and you tick the boxes and you say, I've hired so many people with disability or women or whatever else might be your favorite dimension. Inclusion is much harder. It is the intangible, it's the soft aspect. But if you don't have inclusion, then your diversity is, I think, only on paper. And so this is where I think it gets much harder. You have to have digital infrastructure that is accessible. You have to have leadership that is sensitized to accept a person with a different ability or a person from an LGBTQ community, because again, all of us have these unconscious biases, even more when we turn to these communities versus women, right? Of course, with women also, we do have our stereotypical biases against them, but the others are even greater, that we don't even recognize many of them in cases. So it is much harder challenge to solve. So I think a lot of people tend to focus on the easier one and hope that the other ones will come over time. The way I see it is, I think we try to drive all of these dimensions as far as possible. Again, I can't claim that we are doing all of them equally well or successful equally. Some of them are incredibly hard. The LGBTQ, especially transgender, is a very, very hard community where even the people from that very community are so insensitive to their own plight that they don't even see themselves as humans. That's my personal experience when I've tried to reach out and engage. So it's a big societal problem that still needs to be addressed.
Yeah. Sumit has another question. He's asking what stops someone who gets a 8-figure salary, the likes of CEOs, management consultants, bankers, to contribute their time and money for a cause? What do you think is the barrier in one's mind?
So again, it's hard to generalize and say. I mean, obviously everybody is busy, and you tend to get caught up in that cycle of feeling that my time is too precious. My life is very busy. My time is too precious, and I need to save the little amount of time to do whatever your personal passions are. Play golf, or in my case, run, or whatever else. But it's a question of how you prioritize philanthropy or giving, contributing to society as again, like I said, is it something which is a leftover that if I have time after doing everything, if I have money after doing everything, then I will do it, versus no, it is one of the things that is essential for me to do and I will find a way. And so for me, in my experience, it's never been difficult for me to find the time to invest the money. For many more people, especially the 8-figure salary that Sumit refers to, is certainly easier to do. Perhaps for many of the causes, the time and the expertise is perhaps even more valuable than the money, especially from the likes of CEOs who have the kind of experience and the networks that they have. We don't necessarily. So when we did the Tata Mumbai Marathon and we had 100 plus CEOs who ran as allies, the goal was not that we needed them to make donations. Actually, we did not ask for a single rupee from any CEO. Whatever they chose to give, they gave out of their willingness, but that was never the expectation. It was about giving them the experience of being an ally and recognizing the ability of that differently abled partner that they were running with. And we wanted them to have that experience that we believed would change the way they approach. And indeed, that thought was proven to be true basis all of the feedback and the interest that we receive from these CEOs to create greater employment within their organizations, create greater inclusion within their organizations for differently able people. So that was the concept behind it. And I hope that more people will continue to evolve as we go through this, and that these conversations thankfully are happening more now than perhaps did 5 or 10 years ago. And I hope that more 8-figure salary professionals will do their bit to help society as well.
Yeah. Another interesting question from Venkat. He's asking you, can philanthropy, especially giving money and time, be more fun than some of the other hobbies people pursue? How has it been for you, especially?
So I've been blessed that I could blend the two together. So which is where I think Adventure Beyond Barriers for me has been great, because it does not need me to compromise on one passion to serve another. I can do both. So the cycling from Manali to Khardungla is a great example of that, or the running as a ally with a blind partner to do the half marathon in Mumbai a couple of years ago, or to do the inclusion run with 150 pairs last year, etc. Right, and even in other fields, like I've been working with MAN Foundation on intellectually challenged students that they have who are into F&B, food and beverage, and kind of working with them to create a new property where we can have a team building opportunity for corporates to cook with a person with disability, or cook with someone who's intellectually challenged, and do a team building with a very different dimension. We do a lot of these type of things. So it's, for me, I've always found ways to still merge my passion with my desire to make a difference. And I think in many cases you will find ways. We are all creative enough, especially those of us who are having the benefit of few decades of industry experience, you don't necessarily need to make huge compromises in that case. But yes, where you do, like I said, I think the to give you the example of Tata Mumbai Marathon, when we did this, and not about the running per se, but in terms of just the feeling of contribution after the run, when I was thanking the partners who came forward, I couldn't control my tears. I broke down, and I am this stoic khadus person who never shows emotion, who never cries, never laughs. My wife calls me this fuskat, who's always this person with any emotion, with lack of emotion on his. But I couldn't control myself, and that those tears were joy, were pure joy. And I don't remember the last time I cried, no matter what promotion I got, what success I had in my corporate career. In the last 30 years, I don't remember crying ever for anything that gave me success. Maybe huge amount of money, big recognition, whatever, but it never gave me the kind of passionate feeling of, contribution, feeling of, feeling enriched. My life was enriched because of this, the way I felt when I was part of an initiative like this. So I think, yeah, absolutely, Venkat. I think that is a far greater joy than any professional success that I have ever has given for me in my life.
Yeah. I think we can take one or two questions. Let's see. But Sudhir, can you tell us a little bit more about your COVID volunteering experience?
So I think very similar to what I talked about for this, right? It's been another very emotional experience for me to see how, patients who have needed this care, these ICU type of facilities, and have been struggling, and a number of deaths that I read about, or that I am part of conversations about, because of lack of facilities, or being shunted from one ICU to the other and having to wait 4 hours, and in the bargain, unfortunately having to pay for it with your life. And then on the other hand, when I see this bunch of committed individuals, I mean, Dr. Lakrawala himself, I think his wife delivered twins a few weeks ago. And through most of the last part of the last trimester of the pregnancy, he could not go home because he could not risk infecting his wife when she was pregnant. So imagine the kind of sacrifice that we are talking about here. For what? Not a single rupee that he has. In fact, he has given his own money towards making that cause happen. He lives out of the NSCI campus, and he lived out of there for months at a stretch. There are still people who are living there for the last 4+ months, have not gone back home. There are young students who are in their second, third year, or some of them are RMOs. And these are the young people who are at low risk from COVID. They don't necessarily have the expertise, but they have the passion, and then they can back it up with, because of this contactless technology that we have created, they can back it up with expertise from doctors who can still treat patients from the safety of a control room, which is a little bit away from where the patients are. And I think seeing the commitment from some of these people, it makes me feel embarrassed. It shames me. And I think I like that I do experience these type of things that shame me into recognizing that no matter how I tend to get, I mean, a lot of people will praise you and will send you all these kudos and feel that you are doing great work. But when I see some of these people and the work that they do, it shames me into recognizing that nowhere close to what we can and we should be doing. There is so much more ground for us to break before we can pat ourselves on the back. So again, these are all humbling experiences for me. I mean, again, the experiences with people like Afroz and Indranil and Rabia, I mean, the kind of work that they do, it shames me into never getting ahead of myself and resting on my laurels, or making myself feel that I have done my share, now it is for somebody else to do. No, I have not even scratched the surface. I still have a long time to go, and I'm thankful that I still have years ahead of me. That when I committed to LMP, it was not just about 50% of my money, but 50% of my time and my expertise for whatever time I have left on earth. And I hope that I will outperform on that criteria as much as on the giving in terms of money.
We hope to see more people like you, Sudhir. I have another question for you. From Ramesh Iyer? He's asking, how do you think we can build philanthropy as a mindset in the younger generation? I see that you have involved your own children, and some of the volunteering?
Oh, I think Ramesh is better placed to answer this question than myself, because he is the one at the root of us. He and Lakshmi are key inspirations for me at an early stage of my career and my life, when we got to know them and we saw the work that they do, and he still continues to do. I think that is the seed that he sowed in me and Charmaine, which is now, hopefully growing into not a tree yet, but nevertheless a bush maybe. So I think hopefully through experience, the with my kids as well. I mean, we not just want to give money, but we want them to be involved in volunteering their time and experience. So with the efforts like the Tata Mumbai Marathon, or even feeding the migrant laborers that we did at a personal level through the COVID, early phase of the COVID situation. I think we had our kids come and see the challenges that the average person on the street faces. So we don't ever get ourselves into the space where our life is too hard, and because my iPhone is not working, oh my God, my life is so hard, or my internet is down. For them, that is the biggest challenges in their life. I think it's good to give a reality check to all of us once in a while, and especially to the younger generation who could potentially. My biggest fear still is that my kids are growing up in a mindset of entitlement, in the mindset of not being grounded in reality, and to a point where I try hard to make sure that the next generation doesn't take it. But I'm also very pleased to see that now kids are getting into fundraising, kids are getting into volunteering. In my time, I did not even know what an NGO was. I did not know what it stood for. Right? If I put myself in that age, it was very hard. So my friends from my running group, from my society, I think very actively engaged. Their kids raising funds, their kids volunteering to be part of these initiatives. I think it's phenomenal how it's, if you do it well, I think this is more infectious than COVID, and for the good reason. So I hope that this is a good infection that we can continue to spread across. You can still do it despite social distancing. You can spread it over social media. This is a good part of this virus that we can spread. So I hope that through forums like LMP, we can continue to spread the message and infect more people to come forward and do their bit as well.
Thank you, Sudhir. Thank you so much for your time, and hopefully, philanthropy, kindness, volunteering, all of these will also become contagious, not just the pandemic. So hopefully, you have inspired a lot of people, and let's hope many other people will be inspired to join Living My Promise initiative. Thank you so much for your time, and my apologies to the audience for the technical glitch that we had in between. We will be uploading this video very soon on YouTube, on the Living My Promise channel. Next Saturday, we'll have another live session. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for listening through my bullshit. Thank you.